Hello and welcome to Seismic Cinema. So put your feet up on Kingpin's massive shoulders, grab your goober, and prepare to take a leap of faith, like Miles does at the end of the film. So we're Seismic Cinema. I'm Colin, and Paul is there somewhere, and we believe in the power of escapism. I probably haven't seen the film or show, and Paul has probably watched them in the wrong order. And today we're going to be reviewing Into the Spider-Verse ahead of the release of Across the Spider-Verse. And we are joined by Isaac from the Infinity Bros podcast.
Hello, guys. Good to be on. Excited to talk about Spider-Verse. I'm going to give you a heads up. I will probably just keep talking unless you stop me. So if ever you guys want to get a word in, just put your hand up and let me know.
It's usually the other way about, and the guests are trying to get words in with us. So, totally missed out a bit of what I was going to say. So, you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram as Seismic Cinema. I've also finally created a website, seismiccinema.com, which doesn't have a lot on it yet, but will hopefully in the future. And our recent podcast included a review of Daredevil as part of our Mighty May, and a review of Vision Season 1. And Isaac, you want to give a wee promo to your podcast at the start of the show?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Isaac. Like I said before, I am a part of a podcast called the Infinity Bros podcast, and we review mostly Marvel Cinematic Universe features, but we also love every different area of nerdy fandom. So Star Wars, films that are just coming out in theaters, video games, anything that we're into, we'll review and generally just mess around and have a good time. We're a group of 6 guys that have rotating co-hosts. So if you're into just having fun and listening to your favorite movies, TV shows, video games, please follow us and give us a listen.
You had me at nerdy.
Yeah.
It must be nice to have a rotating host, because Paul always shirks his hosting duties.
Yeah, it is actually nice, because if we have 1 or 2 of us that have scheduling conflicts, we'll say, hey, all right, we'll just catch you guys next week. So me and Max, my other co-hosts, are kind of the main co-hosts, and then all of the other guys kind of rotate themselves on for whatever different nerdy things they're into. So like Jarrett is super into Magic the Gathering. We have quite a few Magic the Gathering episodes. Me and Zane and Mark are super into Star Wars. We have, review episodes, Mandalorian, anything that's been coming out lately. And we're all into the Marvel Cinematic Universe and some comics. I wouldn't say we're like super deep into comics, especially current comics, but we do kind of dive into that a little bit, in terms of like comparing the MCU to the comics and their origins and all that kind of stuff. So dabble a little bit into that realm as well.
Cool. Sounds really interesting. I'd love to be a big comic book person, but I just feel like the entry point's difficult, because like where do you actually start? And
right, it's very overwhelming. There's a lot of stuff out there, and that's how I feel about Magic the Gathering. Honestly, when Jarrett talks to me about it, I'm like, there's so much stuff, dude. Like, this game has been around since like 1992, and they just keep adding more and more stuff. And I'm just like, I'm so far behind already. I feel like I don't know where to begin with it. So yeah, it is sometimes challenging to find a good entry point into comics, for sure.
It's how I feel like a newbie would be with Star Wars, with all the TV shows and interconnected stories.
Right. Yeah, I feel like Star Wars is kind of nice, because like we're getting deep into the Marvel Cinematic Universe now, where I mean, like Guardians of the Galaxy 3, if you haven't watched any of the Guardians or even Endgame or Infinity War, that movie would make zero sense to you. And that's kind of just how things are. I mean, we definitely have been having some introduction of characters that is potentially a jumping on point for some people, but like Star Wars is kind of nice, because you can almost pick any project and still kind of understand a little bit of what's going on, as long as you've seen the like original like trilogy. Like that's kind of what everything's based off of. So if you've seen the original trilogy, you can kind of go anywhere with it. But yeah, it's getting to that point with Star Wars as well. Like we're getting so much content that they're just pumping out that eventually it's going to come to a point where it's like, where do I begin?
I think it's just different mediums though, because before like the sequels were announced, it was all about novels and comic books. So it's just a different way. Like, you don't have to watch Bad Batch. You don't have to watch Visions.
Yeah,
it's enjoyable.
Yeah,
but
I feel like Bad Batch, and you guys were talking about this with the Moisture Farmer Report a couple episodes ago. The Bad Batch is a perfect show for diehard Star Wars fans. Like all of us that are in the Star Wars universe, I mean, this show is fantastic. Like filling in blanks where we needed to know some minor details in the Star Wars universe. It's kind of, not necessarily following the Jedi, storylines and stuff like that. But for somebody who does not know Star Wars, I don't know if that's a good, like, it still would be a good show, but I don't think they would appreciate it quite as much as a diehard Star Wars fan, for sure.
We'll definitely need to meet up at some point for some kind of Star Wars related content by the sounds of it.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm all in on Star Wars.
Sounds good. Well, Paul's just in time for the segment we like to call Seismic Suggestions, where we suggest recent shows and films we've been watching that other people might want to check out, including ourselves. So, Paul, since you made a dramatic late entrance, what have you been checking out over the last few days?
Yep, sorry about that. Just had to deal with some things in the background. Should be dog-free for about an hour, so it should be golden.
Ooh,
I'm gutted to.
Nice.
I had a good intro for Isaac. Then
Still
he
time.
pan it.
Still time.
Still time. Right.
I'm
I was
here,
going to say the hardest choices require the strongest wills, and Isaac's will was very strong to choose to come on our car crash of a show.
There you go. That's impressive. I like that.
a nice wee Thanos quote for you.
Oh, what have I said about being self-depreciating? Last podcast, we were talking about this video that I found. It was like 10 things you shouldn't do that podcast listeners hate, and we've ticked off every single one in the last 2 weeks.
Oh man,
I feel like it's part of our charm, I'm like a depressing robot in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Honestly, if you do it in a way where you're laughing about it at the same time, when I'm listening to podcasts, I appreciate that. Because that just shows that we were talking about this pre-show. It just shows that you don't take yourself too seriously. And there's probably a lot of podcasters out there that do that. So if you can laugh about it, sure, go for it. Why not?
So, yeah.
Lady Spider, what have you been watching?
That's
Paul's screen name for anyone that's listening just to audio.
So mostly I was playing the end of Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. I was playing through that for the first time. I thought, I'll play that, and then I can play Jedi Survivor. Oh, the big hiccup was I didn't realize Jedi Survivor was PS5 only, and I've only got a PS4, so I'm super sad.
You can come over and play it, Paul. We could have joint custody.
I could deal with that. Yeah,
5 each. You up for it?
It's £70. No, I'll wait for the sale. So playing that, and I watched Evil Dead Rise the other night, and it was actually not too bad. I've not seen, I think, the original Evil Dead's properly in like years, and I watched that, and it was actually quite entertaining. Scarlett didn't like it.
Is that the one that was out in the cinema like a few weeks ago?
Yeah.
It's a new one, yeah.
So that's quite enjoyable. And other than that, I've not really been watching much. I've been trying to get through some more Rebels episodes.
Enjoying it?
Because I've not watched. Yeah, it's gotten a lot better from the start. I wasn't digging it at the start just because I felt like quite childish storylines and not
So
what's
this
happening.
is a first time watch for you?
First time watching it, yeah. I'm a wee bit behind when it comes to these things. It took me till what was it? The first lockdown in COVID to watch all of Clone Wars. I I caught COVID and I was off for like 2 weeks, and I've just
Then you
binged
binged
through.
the
I think
rest of it?
about
Nice. Yeah.
binged like 7 seasons or something in 2 weeks. So
Nice.
Isaac, if you watch our
it's worth
first
it.
if you watch our first 60 podcast, at least once an episode, I tell Paul he needs to watch Rebels.
Good. Thank you. I appreciate that because I was probably going to say the same thing. But honestly, I definitely get where you're coming from. Like when you start watching Rebels, you're like, the dialogue and the animation definitely feels like it's geared towards small children, and you're like, I could do without this. But the storyline in Rebels gets so good. Like you are gonna, and you're watching it at the perfect time too, because it's definitely gonna play. Ahsoka, that is coming out in August, is definitely gonna play off of heavy Rebels according to that trailer. So that's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, because I've just got up to the bit. Was it Kanan and Ezra have met Bendu, and Darth Maul's coming into it more. So
yes,
I think they've just destroyed the Sith Holocron.
Twin Sons is coming up.
Oh boy.
To be fair, I know what happens in that because like the YouTube shots were everywhere when that first happened, and I've seen it.
Yeah, it's hard to avoid that kind of stuff these days.
You enjoy that. So, Isaac, what have you been checking out recently? Any good films or shows?
Well, I have been. I picked up Jedi Survivor. I have a PS5. I picked up Jedi Survivor, so I've been playing that. Been really enjoying that. That's fantastic. Jedi Fallen Order, probably one of my favorite Star Wars games of all time. Like, it's top 3 for sure. So it's Survivor is really good so far. I've really been enjoying that. I have 3 small kids. One of them is 4 months old though, so I definitely don't get as much gaming time as I would like. So slowly plodding my way through Jedi Survivor. What I have played of it is fantastic. 2 shows that I'm currently watching that are on right now are Ted Lasso and Barry. Ted Lasso is fantastic. This is like the first 2 seasons of Ted Lasso are all-time great television like seasons. Like I would highly recommend this show to anybody, especially if you have Apple TV Plus. It's like a must watch. Like you need to watch Ted Lasso. The 3rd season, I haven't been enjoying quite as much. Like I feel like the magic from the first 2 seasons isn't quite there, but it's still really solid. Like it's still really well produced. Jason Sudeikis is like one of my favorite SNL cast members of all time. So like he's fantastic, and they're doing some really good things in the show. So highly recommend that show, especially the first 2 seasons. And then Barry is on HBO Max, and that's with Bill Hader. Have you guys been watching this show at all?
No.
So this show, I didn't watch it when it was on back in the day. It's only been running for like 4 years or something. Like I don't know exactly when it started or anything like that, but I wasn't like original watcher of this show, but I love Bill Hader as well. So I was like, I had some time a while back and started watching the shows when I still had HBO Max, and I literally have been buying HBO Max just for this show. Like I unsubscribed to HBO Max because I already have every single streaming service under the sun, and I was like, I need to get rid of a few of these. And I resubscribed to watch this season of Barry. It is fantastically produced television. Bill Hader is incredible as Barry Berkman, who's the titular character in this show. And man, he shows his range in this show more than, and he's a really good actor. Like I knew that before I started watching this show, but this show really shows off his acting chops. He is just stinking good in this show. So this is another one I would highly recommend, but I wouldn't say this one is for everyone necessarily. It's like he's like a hitman who gets he basically wants out of being a hitman, and that's kind of the first couple seasons is him getting out of being a hitman, and then it just goes off the rails after that. Like the seasons 3 and 4 is going on right now, and it's just wild. Like I have no clue what to expect from any of these episodes coming out. And I think, let's see, I think the one that just came out this week is episode 6, and there's 8 in this season, so it's like 2 more episodes and it's coming to a close, I think. So but yeah, if you guys already have HBO Max, would highly recommend checking out that one. But it's like dark and creepy, and Bill Hader is really, really good in it, so would highly recommend that one.
We don't really get those here, but I've heard people have been recommending Ted Lasso, but I'm actually getting a phone upgrade in July, and I can get 6 months of Apple TV for free with my phone.
And I would say honestly, that's how I started on Apple TV Plus, because I got a new phone, probably a couple of years ago now, and I keep paying for it because Apple TV Plus has really, really good shows. So it might get you hooked.
Paul, you're not.
Well, Colin. I was actually about to say, Colin, send that password and login details over my way, please. Thank you.
I can't get it until July, but I said those 2 shows do sound really good. We sometimes get shows a wee bit later, maybe on like Sky TV, for example, they come over.
2 shows that you need to watch right away when you get Apple TV Plus. Ted Lasso is the one of them. We already talked about it. For All Mankind is phenomenal show. We have every year we have an awards show on our podcast called the Stanleys, and we determine our favorite movie from that year, favorite TV show, and then some other random categories. But For All Mankind was my favorite TV show of 2022, which is crazy because there were a ton of really, really good TV shows in 2022. So definitely would recommend those 2 shows. But almost anything you watch on Apple TV Plus is like solid, like production wise, really, really well done. Even if they're not my cup of tea necessarily, they're all made really well. So I think that Apple TV Plus has really solid like exclusive content. Oh no, okay, there's 3 shows. You gotta recommend one more. Severance. You have to watch Severance.
I think I've heard of that.
Severance is fantastic as well, and that's
Adam Scott.
Adam Scott. Yeah, Adam Scott. What's his face? Ben Wyatt from Parks and Recreation. Like, he is phenomenal in that series. That's another one that is a must watch. Like I said, there's a lot of good TV on Apple TV Plus, so you will be eating well when you get that iPhone.
I'll get in touch with you when I get my new phone then.
Yeah. I'll hook you up with our Infinity Bro approved list of Apple TV Plus original content.
I look forward to it. So
what about you, Colin?
Well, I just finished. I did a poll. I just finished watching Into the Spider-Verse, like a rewatch. I've seen it multiple times. Watched it just before we came on. Nice. I finished Visions Volume 2, which I was very impressed with. And I actually found that on Disney Plus, where you've got the episodes and then there's like the extras tab, there's actually like 6-7 minute shorts are like the making of each episode, which is really quite interesting. Kind of goes behind the scenes and like the kind of origins and the writing process. So if you like that kind of thing, it's worth checking out. Me and Aileen, so that's my fiance, Isaac, we just finished season 1 of Luther, which has a TV show that's come out on Netflix recently, but a movie that's come out on Netflix. Just finished season 1. It's pretty mental. A lot of good characters. Paul, me and Aileen both really like Alice.
Everyone loves Alice. She's just the good kind of crazy.
And I'm still slowly making my way through Inside Number 9, the anthology show on BBC iPlayer. It's like a bit like Black Mirror, Isaac, if you're familiar with Black Mirror.
Yeah.
And very exciting for me. One of my 2 major passions. All the Harry Potter movies are on UK Netflix for the first time as of today.
Congratulations. So, that's pretty exciting.
I was watching some of Philosopher's Stone when I was getting ready for work today while I was on the move. So that was quite exciting. First time I'll be able to do that.
Nice.
So yeah.
Oh, that's going to be UK top 10, isn't it, for like the next wee while? Just Harry Potter, Harry Potter, Harry Potter, Harry Potter.
For sure.
If ever there was a time to do a Harry Potter podcast, it's now, because that will be trending.
I really don't want to.
I'll get somebody else on there.
Hey, they're HBO Max is apparently, or Max now, or whatever they're calling it now. They're apparently producing a Harry Potter reboot series too.
No, it's been confirmed, so I'll be interested to see how that develops.
Yeah, that'll be interesting for sure.
Right, before we get into the main review, I always think it's quite interesting because it sets us up for the review in terms of, and Isaac's been warned, he's got like 2 minutes to talk about Spider-Man here. So just a wee bit about, we can start with Isaac then. So just a wee bit about your Spider-Man knowledge and your story.
Okay.
To the Spider-Man universe.
I'll try to keep it to 2 minutes here. We'll see how I do. But Spider-Man has, since I've been a kid, has always been my favorite superhero. And I wouldn't say I was really deep into superheroes when I was a kid. So it was just like, oh yeah, I like Spider-Man. He's pretty cool. But then when I got into college, I started reading comics, and I went back and read the original, Amazing Spider-Man run, and I fell in love with the character. I've always loved it. Loved the Raimi trilogy. Loved, even Andrew Garfield's trilogy or his almost trilogy. his 2 movies.
Is it duology? Is that not the phrase?
Duology. Yeah, that sounds about right. Everything Tom Holland Spider-Man, everything Spider-Man, I will be loving it. So when Into the Spider-Verse came out, honestly, it kind of flew under my radar. I was like, oh, this is going to be really cool. But when I saw it in theaters, it blew my mind. I was like, wow, this is nuts. And as a Spider-Man fan, it was exactly what I wanted. So yeah, always been a Spider-Man fan. Will always love Spider-Man. And Into the Spider-Verse just deepened my love for the character of Spider-Man.
It's a very good origin story.
There you go. That's the short version of the origin story. So.
What about yourself, Paul?
Well, probably my love for Spider-Man probably came from my brother, because he's always been like a big Spider-Man fan. So it's probably just kind of seeped into my life somehow. He is still a big kid when it comes to like Spider-Man. He's got a picture like of his face superimposed on Spider-Man's body from like Orlando, Florida, when he was like his mid-20s, maybe 30s, and he absolutely loves it. And yeah, so growing up, I used to just watch the kind of Saturday morning cartoons. When they had like everyone just had like lasers and stuff, and there was no blood or anything in it. It was just
gosh, that
just
90s animated Spider-Man series it's so good, but it's so 90s. Rewatched it earlier last year, and like every other character has a mullet, and it's just like, oh, this is just great. I'm just loving this.
The one I always remember is when like pretty much like the Spider-Verse, it's when they have like the alternate Spider-Mans turn up, and
gosh,
the armored Spider-Man, like, he used to be my favorite. I had a toy version of him, and he was such a cocky arsehole in the cartoon.
Yeah, for real. Oh my gosh, it's so good.
That's what I remember. Just that, and I think the storyline when he turned into the Man Spider.
Yeah,
and it was like
Man Spider.
Morpheus, now, isn't it? Or Morbius, even. Morpheus, not Morpheus from the Matrix. Morbius. So that was kind of where my childhood love of Spider-Man came from, the Saturday morning cartoons, and then, like you're saying, everything since then has been pretty golden. I wasn't a fan of the Amazing Spider-Man films when they first came out, watching them, and then when I watched No Way Home, I got a deeper appreciation of it, and I actually think Amazing Spider-Man 2 was one of my more favoured films in the series as a whole. Just because I think it's more because of like Garfield and Emma Stone more than anything. But yeah, when we did I think we did a Spider-Man ranking, and yeah, just brought back all the feels for all the movies.
That's a hot take right there. We've talked about that on our podcast a lot, and pretty much universally among all of us, Amazing Spider-Man 2 is our least favorite Spider-Man movie. So and you're totally right though. Like the chemistry between Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone is fantastic, and the VFX in Amazing Spider-Man 2 hold up better than movies that are made today. Like the VFX are phenomenal in that movie. They are so stinking good. But basically everything else about that film is not really that good. So,
it has definitely after the scene where Garfield catches MJ and No Way Home. I think just that.
Yeah.
I went back and watched it like all after that, and
gets me.
Gwen Stacy's death scene is hard to watch.
Yeah, definitely. Oh man.
I'll be back in 2 seconds. The biggest spider. Talk about Spider-Man. The biggest spider I've ever seen. It just crawled across my floor. You catch it before
you summoned him. You summoned him. We're talking about Spider-Man, and you just showed up.
So I'll be back in 2 seconds unless it eats me, and then I won't be back.
And then you turn into Spider-Man.
I'll quickly tell my origin story then. So I was actually thinking about this just in the lead up to doing the podcast, and I've never really thought about it like this before, but I actually think after Star Wars and Harry Potter, Spider-Man's maybe my favorite kind of series, because I've seen all of the films. I've got great memories of all of the games like Spider-Man 1 and 2 and a few latter ones as well. I've watched like the 90s cartoons, but I also watched the Spectacular Spider-Man series on Netflix quite recently. And yeah, he's definitely my favorite superhero. And yeah, I don't think I realized how much I enjoyed the character until No Way Home, when we had the three Peters scene.
Yeah,
that whole segment of that film was fantastic. So yeah, a lot of the toys when I was a kid as well, including this really cool one that had like a wee bit in the back. You turned it and like you could like look through a lens and see different images. It was like a pretty cool action figure.
Nice action figures, man. Oh, good times.
Right, so I think we've got a lot about this film to jump into, but just before that, would you be interested in hearing a few behind the scenes facts that I pulled together?
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
Ready, Paul? I'll go through them quite quickly. So I don't know how to pronounce the other Spider-Man creator's name, which I apologize for. But it was dedicated to Steve. It's like Ditko? Ditka, yeah, that's it. And Stan Lee. So they both died in 2018 when this came out. So it was dedicated to both of them who created the character. I thought this was quite cool. There was 140 animators involved in the film. And that was the largest amount of animators that's been used for a Sony feature film. A couple of the cast members I thought were quite interesting. Jake Johnson, who I remember ashamedly from New Girl, as Peter B. Parker.
Don't be ashamed of that. No, don't be ashamed of that. That's a great show. Don't.
He was also in. I think he was also in the Jump Street movies as well. Really recognizable guy. Haley Stenfield, who plays Kate Bishop in a Hawkeye. She's voices Gwen Stacy. Oscar Isaac apparently has a cameo as like a Spider-Man 2099.
Was that right? I was looking up on Amazon and it just said interesting person 1. I was like, who's interesting person 1?
Interesting.
I think it's like
maybe that was before they were trying to keep it a secret for before it like came out or whatever.
I was just like, that's so weird.
This one's quite cool for the Community lovers. Donald Glover appears in the background of a scene as his Community character, because there was an episode. There was an episode in Community where he dressed up as Spider-Man, and apparently that's in the background somewhere. I don't know where it is. And apparently there was a big Twitter campaign at the time to get Donald Glover to play Miles Morales. Because you know how Donald Glover's in Homecoming, like the
Yeah.
newest film.
He's technically Prowler in Homecoming,
Yeah,
or he would be the person that would play Prowler, I guess,
Yeah.
if it existed in the MCU.
Mhm.
But yeah, that would be sweet.
Yeah. And Donald Glover's crazy good at voices, like
Oh yeah.
the weird high pitch voices, and he can do that in some of his songs is nuts. So I could pull it off, no bother.
He's a great Lando as well.
Oh, so good, dude. I just watched Solo not long ago, like a couple weeks ago. And it just, I mean, I when it came out, I thought he was a great Lando, but it just reinforces like, holy crap, like he is like the perfect casting for young Lando. Like he's so stinking good.
So there's our podcast there. We could do a defense of Solo.
There you go. There you go. It's not as bad as people say it is, man. It's not that bad.
I
I would even venture to say that it's good. So there, yeah, there you go. That's the premise for our next podcast.
Right, number 4, the news about there was like leaked news about this film coming out during the big Sony network hacking when all the PlayStation details got stolen. I thought that was quite interesting. That's kind of when it kind of leaked. Number 5, this one's really cool. All of the 140 animators wanted to draw Stan Lee, so apparently you can see him on every single train in the film.
Yeah, that's an awesome fact. The fact that Stan Lee is so present in the year. I'm pretty sure you said it too, right? Like the year he died was the year that this
he died
premiered?
that year. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that was really cool to see him so heavily involved, and him actually making a cameo in the film too. Just it's perfect.
And the feels.
Yeah, I think they did him proud.
Yeah, definitely.
And the last bonus fact: Peter and MJ's divorce and Into the Spideyverse was inspired by a plot line from the never filmed Spider-Man 4, the Raimi's fourth.
Really? Wow.
By the way, I didn't spot any of these things. Like I looked all these up like before we came on, but still, it's nice to share them.
To be fair, I'd be impressed if you spotted something from Spider-Man 4.
I'm in the know, Paul. I'm in the know. Right, let's get into the main review. So, as we talked about spiraling before we started, so who wants to get the ball rolling with their thoughts on the movie?
Guess first.
I'll go first, but just stop me when you guys want me to stop, because like, again, I could talk about this film forever. So, I mean, I'm biased because I came into this a Spider-Man fan, and I knew it was going to be a really good movie, but it still blew me away. And this is my favorite movie of all time, like animated or non-animated. Like I absolutely love this movie. So when you guys said that on Twitter, I was like, yes, I will talk about this. I'll talk about this movie with any podcaster that wants to talk about this movie. So yeah, I jumped on the opportunity. Okay, and this is a running joke on our podcast. When I became a dad, I cry during movies all the time now. Before I had kids,
I feel that.
I think I maybe cried a total of like 10 times in my entire life. And now it's like a bi-weekly or weekly occurrence maybe. So films get me sometimes now. And I've probably watched Into the Spider-Verse it's probably over like almost over 100 times or something. Like we watch it. I watch it with my kids all the time. And there are 3 moments during the film that still make me cry every single time. So, I mean, the impact that this movie has had on me, just like I can't say it enough that this is just a movie that I absolutely love. And I would watch this film. There was a point where my oldest daughter, I think, was 4 years old, and we watched this movie like 7 or 8 days in a row because she was like, let's watch Spider-Man. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. I was like, I'm not going to say no to that. If my kid wants to watch Spider-Man, we're watching Spider-Man again. So yeah, I love this movie through and through. There's really nothing negative that I will say about it. So I'm going to stop myself there so you guys can get your thoughts out before.
Can I try and guess where you cried?
Sure. Yeah, go for it.
Right. When his uncle died?
No, actually.
When he hugged his dad near the end.
Some of these moments are like, they're like kind of like longer moments too. So like, I feel like that's maybe
this is like Paul last week. I asked Paul what his favorite moment in Man of Steel was, and he just played the whole scene.
Okay, all right, I'll tell you though.
Wait, why don't you just do it when we get to it?
Wait. That's a teaser for later. You have to keep listening to find out when I cry during Into the Spider-Verse.
We're going to put that in as a YouTube short. That'd be funny,
okay, sounds good.
Was it when Gwen Stacy couldn't say Peter Parker?
Now I got to keep it a secret. Now I can't say.
Gotta keep it. Well, what about you? What's your kind of overall thoughts on this film before we get deeper?
Well, if anyone, spoiler for everyone goes back a fair few episodes to our top 10 ranking, I think Into the Spider-Verse was my number one out of all the Spider-Man movies.
Yes.
Yeah, I love it to bits. I didn't actually go see it in cinemas when it first came out. I remember seeing the teaser trailer at the end of Venom, I think it was. That was one of the post-credit scenes. I was like, really? The next kind of big Marvel thing of this is going to be Into the Spider-Verse. And it was the whole train scene where he's dragging the unconscious Peter Parker around on the trains, getting chased by the police. I was like, it looked pretty decent, but I wasn't sure about the animation because, it starts kind of dead janky and a bit kind of disjointed. I was like, I'm not sure how I feel about that.
By design.
But yeah. So I don't know, is this... I've been banding this about last few episodes. Like, anytime we talk about Spider-Verse, I band this about. I don't know if it's a myth or not, but is it true that at the start, the animation for Miles is a bit janky because he hasn't mastered his powers, but when he masters his powers, the frame rate goes up and he becomes more like the movie's more smoother because of it.
Here's how I know that I know too much about this movie. I know exactly what you're talking about. Most movies are filmed 24 frames per second. Miles, through about the first half of this movie, is filmed or animated at 12 frames per second. The rest of the characters, except in certain scenes, there's certain scenes where it's all 12 frames per second, but most of everybody else, all the characters, all the spider people, are still at 24 frames per second. So, and then when the leap of faith like moment happens, he gets his power. He has his powers, but he like understands his powers and finally gets it. The rest of the movie, he's 24 frames per second. So it's totally like conscious by design that I think is brilliant. And it does throw you off though. You're not wrong about that. Like you're watching this and like, it's almost kind of hard to watch a little bit for the first couple minutes until your eyes kind of like adjust to it. And you're like, oh, there's just something weird about it, But it's cool.
That's what I felt. Because when I first watched that trailer, I was like, if I watch a whole movie like this, I feel like I'm going to get a sore head.
Yeah.
And then I think I heard that fact probably on, I used to watch a lot of the Angry Joe show on YouTube back in the day. I think they covered it and they said it, and I always take whatever they say with a pinch of salt because usually it's a load of nonsense. And I've just, every time somebody talks about Spider-Verse, I always band out that fact, and then I'm thinking, is that actually true, or is it just me just continuing a myth? I absolutely loved it. I loved seeing all the different characters. Sorry, Colin, what you said?
It's probably how people feel when they watch our grainy like video feeds.
Aye, and then they listen to us and they just get a sore head anyway.
Now you mentioned
we can claim the same for that too. So
I can't actually remember where I saw this for the first time. Like, I can't remember if it was the cinema or if I bought it as on Blu-ray or something and just watched it. Like I don't really remember watching it in the cinema, if I'm honest. So I think I maybe did just watch it in the house.
Yeah, I think I watched it when it came on streaming, and it was one of those ones, like, if we're like babysitting like Scarlett's niece or one of our pals, wee girls or something, they'd be like, "Oh, do you want to watch Netflix?" I'd be like, "Do you want to watch Spider-Man?" And they're like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Okay, yep, we'll watch this." And then instead of babysitting, I'd be like, "Shh, watch this, watch this, watch this. Look at this bit, look at this bit."
This is the bit where, by the way, total aside, I'm a school teacher. I actually used the Spider-Man pointing meme.
Yes.
On a slide today because it was a bit a group task, and it was like when you're doing a group task and you're trying to work out who's the team leader or something. And you're all
oh man, that's so perfect.
Quite a few of them got it, which was good.
Awesome.
What do you think?
I was just gonna say I've never heard anyone saying bad about this film. Like legitimately, I've never heard like a single bad word against this film. If I'm honest, I think it's just a load of fun. I think the color scheme is just like the colors you get when they're in the different like the dimensions are coming through is amazing. I think the soundtrack's amazing. I think the film really hits high gear when all the different spider people start appearing. I feel like that's when it goes from pretty good to like amazing. I think the last kind of 40 minutes is like just unreal. I think the whole film's good, but I think it just builds and builds and builds and builds as it goes along. It's funny as well. I was wanting to actually write down some of the quotes. I think Peter B. Parker particularly was extremely funny, and Spider-Man Noir was hilarious as well. Just some of the things he was coming out with. There was one quote that just stuck in my mind was when Spider-Man Peter Parker died in his world, the kind of main world, and he's saying like Miles is kind of talking to him essentially, and he's like, I think it's a metaphor. I don't think he's actually talking to you. There's just a few.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And just all the stuff with kind of fat Peter B. Parker eating burgers, and he's like, "Why am I stuck with this Spider-Man?" and all this, and all that kind of pattern.
Hobo Spider-Man.
Kingpin, this big back and drooped down head.
Yeah,
the humor is great, and the bit about the cape, he's like, "Oh, I get to wear a cape," and then later on he sees the cape. A big thing I like about shows, films, is foreshadowing. That we reviewed Hot Fuzz recently, which is my favorite film, and there's a lot of bits that tie back later. There's lots of kind of like lines or plot points that they revisit in the latter parts of the film. So yeah, I really enjoy it. I put this in my top 10 movies when we did a movie ranking because I did like I had like my favorite sci-fi or my favorite comedy. This was my favorite animated film that I picked out. So
nice.
The one scene that always sticks out to me is when he's trying to fit in the USB at the very start into the wee panel, and I'm like, that's so relatable.
It is. Gotta so turn it around, try it a couple times, turn it around again. Yeah,
I actually did that. Put my microphone in today. I was like, yeah, this is a Spider-Verse episode.
There you go.
It's just so wacky. Like it shouldn't have worked, or like Detective Spider-Man, the pig, this kind of anime girl with the robot.
Right. Honestly, if you had seen the script for this movie before you saw any animation or anything about the movie itself, I don't know. Like, I would have been apprehensive at least. Like, how is this all gonna work? Like, I don't really just with the animation. It just, I don't know. Everything fits together like so well. It's the perfect comic book movie. Like if you're looking for a movie to define the term comic book movie, this is the one.
There was a scene where the page literally turned.
Yeah, right. Like the comic booky animation, but they made it like 3D realistic-ish. Like it was perfect. It's so good. And then with all the color, you mentioned all the colors and just how bright and like vivid it is. The fight scene at the end in like the collider and stuff, that's got to be one of the best animation scenes like of all time. Like it's
not my favorite scene though. I love the one in the Aunt May's house.
Yeah. Oh, that one's so good. Oh, they're all so good. I'm going to say that about every scene that you bring up. So.
Aunt May was a real scene stealer. I'm sure I missed that line up before.
Yeah. Definitely.
Oh, hello.
What
I
happened?
thought I seen your mouth moving and nothing came out.
I think everybody just like was just so lost for words from how enjoyable this film was.
Yeah. Do you want to hear something
Yeah.
something bad?
What?
Oh,
Scarlett doesn't like it.
Doesn't surprise me.
gasp.
No. Also, she doesn't like Hot Fuzz. She's a bit of a monster.
Do you know what could have impacted?
And I can say that because she's out walking the dogs, and she doesn't listen to the podcast.
There is, like, I was watching it earlier and I said to Alien, I was like, have you ever seen this? And she's like, no, and I'm not interested. There's still a big stigma towards animated films and shows. Like, even like
absolutely.
Paul a wee bit with Clone Wars and Rebels. Like, and I was a wee bit like that at one point as well. I'm not like that at all now, but I think Paul recommended Invincible to me.
Ooh.
And I was like, I don't know. Doesn't sound that good.
And that one's like a very good example of that, because they made Invincible almost to the T, exactly like the comic. Not the storyline, but like the animation is, it's very comic booky. Yeah. And so I understand where you're coming from with that, because like people that aren't big comic book fans are going to see that and just the animation in general and be like, it's like kind of a kid show, but Invincible is not a kid show at all.
I watched the first episode and I was like, it's all right. I saw about this quite recently. And then that bit at the end where everyone just gets
slaughtered.
Everyone gets slaughtered. I was like, I'm on board. I'm on board from here. Oh, I was talking about it because it reminded me a bit of the Ninth Jedi, the Visions episode from season 1 a wee bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I only watched it because Stephen Yeun and J.K. Simmons were attached to it, because I like The Walking Dead, and it's like, gotta watch something with J. Jonah Jameson in it as well, don't you? And
it's a good Spider-Man link.
And I was the same. I was watching the first episode, I was like, this is all right. I don't know why they're getting involved in something like this. And then at the end of that first episode, I was like, I'm all in, baby.
Yeah, all in, baby. Yeah.
What did you make of the Doc Ock twists?
I loved it. Gosh, now I can't think of the actress who does her voice.
Oh, I had this written down.
Catherine Hahn. It's Catherine Hahn.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. From
perfect choice. And I don't know, Doc Ock. She was really good because she was like menacing, but also just like wacky and goofy at the same time. And it was a cool twist on, like, you know, our typical Doc Ock that we see when, you know, like people that have seen Spider-Man 2 or people that read comics, like this kind of like middle-aged dude who's kind of ugly looking, and he's got like the metal arms, and it was just like such a fresh take on the character. One cool tidbit too was one of my things that I saw right like the first time I watched it was when Spider-Gwen or Ghost Spider comes into our universe for the first, or the Ultimate Universe for the first time. She's being chased by Doc Ock from her universe, and it like clangs on the side of the wall when she like goes through the portal or whatever. And it's like, it looks like it's a typical metal Doc Ock arm that like does that. And I just thought it was like a cool, like, oh man, there's like different versions of Doc Ock and different versions of, you know, all the villains as well as the spider people that we see in the rest of the movie too. So that was just a cool little tidbit.
It was a real surprise. I really didn't see it coming with the reveal.
Yeah, because it definitely sounds like live or something.
Yeah. And later in the movie, during that scene at Aunt May's house when they're fighting, it's so funny because like she says her friends call her Liv, right? And then Aunt May calls her Liv, and I don't know if that's like a purposeful thing, like if she was meant to like maybe she was friends with her at some point, or if it was just like oh great, it's Liv. Like when she opens the door of there, it's like, oh, Okay, that's interesting. Were her and Aunt May like buddies back in the day or something like that? I don't know. Who knows?
That'd be an interesting spin-off. What did you make
Yeah.
of Kingpin's appearance?
I feel like that was the one that threw me off the most because it's just weird to look at with like the giant body and then his head is like a foot down on his giant body. It's just like, what is going on here? But the more I've watched it, the more I appreciate it. It's just like goofy and it just adds to that comic book style. Like, obviously, this isn't like a realistic like thing, you know. But also, I mean, every voice actor in this absolutely nailed it. Like they did phenomenal job with the voice acting, and this is a kind of a different take on Kingpin too. Like he's definitely more. He jokes a little bit more than the typical Kingpin would. I feel like he's a little bit more lighthearted. I say lighthearted, and then he literally kills Spider-Man. But you know, he's just a different take, and I kind of like that about a lot of these villains.
Is it another guy?
It's kind of more like it's more like Mob Boss more than I don't know, like the cartoons. He's always like in the background really much, but in this one he's more like hands-on, dirty work, and a bit more crude, I think, rather than the kind of classic Kingpin you're used to.
That's a good way to describe it, because like you think Kingpin in other media, you think like cold, calculated, super intelligent, like he knows what's going on behind the scenes. And this Kingpin was just like, I'm going to do what I want with my money type of, you know, Kingpin. Like, I don't care what happens. He's just like up in your face a little bit more. But
yeah,
I think
he's
it
kind
worked.
of tunnel visioned on his objective and not really caring about anything else outside it.
Right. Yeah. He wasn't thinking ahead for sure. He was just thinking about like what he wanted in that moment type of thing.
It was the guy that played... I forget what he's called. What's Wolverine's brother?
Ray Donovan,
Sabretooth, yeah.
Aye.
I was thinking that earlier on. I could not remember what his name was.
Lev Schreiber?
Yeah.
Schreiber.
Yeah.
That's right.
There was one scene when Doc Ock and Kingpin are talking and they're looking out over like in a balcony and you just see his back and like none of his head or so.
Yeah.
Baby got back.
It works. Like you talked about like kind of the frame rates earlier, but I feel like his appearance works in the context of the film, but obviously it wouldn't work in live action or maybe some of the other animated shows.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I will say the moment that this film grabbed me in the theaters the first time I saw it was when Kingpin kills Spider-Man. I was like, okay, we're serious now. Like, this isn't just like a jokey Spider-Man movie. Like, this is a serious, I say serious, but it's hilarious movie. But like this movie is not messing around. Like they are serious about what they're trying to convey. And there reveals the first time I cry in Spider-Verse is when he kills Spider-Man. Not that exact moment, because this is a pretty serious moment, but like right after that, the scene is where everybody is looking at their phones and they like see the news that Spider-Man dies, and the song that comes on is like, I'm not scared of the dark, you know? And that's a moment that hits me, and like everybody's just feeling the weight of it, you know, of the death of Spider-Man. And I was just like, oh man, that hits me every time.
That's a good opportunity for you to give your first seismic solution to one of my questions, which was, what is your favorite song from the film? Which is a tricky task.
That's a really tough one because there's so many good ones. Oh man.
Who wants to go first?
I'll jump in.
I don't know what it's called, but on my rewatch, I really like that song.
I'll look that up. Are you going first, Paul, or am I going? I got to think about this. I don't know what my answer is.
I'll go first then.
Okay, all right.
I like the one, What's Up Danger?
When
Miles finally gets his act together, and I try to find like that version of it for ages. I kept just finding like these other versions that weren't the exact one from the movie, and it was bugging me to hell. I eventually found it, but yeah, that one at the start. It's just so that kind of goes.
Yep.
That's a probably terrible impression of it, but
Sing-
yeah, that
oh,
just
sing-
gets the people going.
Oh yeah.
sing it.
Also,
What's up, Danger?
what's up, Danger?
What's
that
up, Danger?
that like kind of like, I don't know, what siren like sound effect or
Kinda,
whatever it
yeah.
is. Yeah, like that is kind of like the musical theme of Prowler. And let me tell you, like if you're talking iconic musical themes for villains, Darth Vader's number one with the Imperial March, and Prowler is, for me, this is a hot take, but Prowler with that like kind of siren sound effect is number two. Like I absolutely love every time he's chasing somebody like Miles or whatever, like that is going on, and it just like is like alarms going off in your head when it's happening. And I was just like, oh, this is perfect. All right. So mine though is, it probably is Scared of the Dark, honestly. Now that I have the list pulled up here, there's so many good ones though. Like this is a fantastic soundtrack. What's Up Danger is definitely up there. Elevate is also a really good one. I think that one's just the post credits song, but that one I sit and listen to the post credits every time. So I think those are my favorite ones though. Scared of the Dark gets me every time.
The Post Malone one's pretty good as well. Sunflower, is that?
Oh
That's
yeah,
one.
yeah,
Right.
Sunflower. That
What's
one's good
doing that?
too.
That was my backup one.
That was your backup one?
Of Danger. I was about to sing the intro as well.
I can still sing it. On you go.
No, I don't want to now. That would originally Sunflower would have originally been my choice, but when I watched, I think just because the most iconic part of the film with taking the leap is What Up Danger, that kind of comes to mind. But Sunflower I just really loved, and I've still listened to it. It's actually on the wedding playlist, by the way. Wee Zachary, my fiance's boy, they all love that song. See, when we're driving to school, like that's a kind of a car anthem. They all just sing it. They all just sing along to it. Yeah, I would go for that if we're all going for different ones. This was, in terms of plugging podcasts, we did a kind of movie soundtrack ranking, and I had this on my list.
Yes.
Did you?
Mm-hmm.
It's a good one.
Don't remember it.
Yeah.
Saying that it was like 70 episodes ago or something.
Yeah. This is our 82nd.
Oof, ugh.
Getting up there, guys. 100 is right around the corner.
I feel like this podcast has aged me immeasurably.
Right, I mentioned it earlier that I really like the line about, like, it's a metaphor, he's not talking to you. Do you have a favorite line or quote from the film? Either of you?
Yep. Number two time that I'm actually skipping it, but this is the third time that I cry during Into the Spider-Verse. During the fight scene at the end, they're sending all the spider people back to their universes, all that good stuff. Peter and Miles have kind of like that last confrontation because Kingpin is still around. Peter's trying to stick around to face him, and Miles is like, you gotta go, man. And then does the flip kick thing that Peter did to him in his room earlier, like another callback to that. And Peter just smiles, and as soon as he smiles, like I'm like, tears are starting to well up in my eyes. But then he drops them, and he's looking up at him, and the music is going. And he's like, "Not bad, kid." And that moment to me is just like, oh, like he's like, he almost is like a father figure to Miles in that moment in my eyes, like. And as a dad to kids, I'm like, oh my god, there it is. There's time number 3. So that's one of my favorite lines.
Well, at least I'm not the biggest crier on this podcast.
Yeah. Hey, there you go. There you go. Not anymore. Not with me here.
The first time for everything. Yeah, there's not a line roundabout there, but he's like, what if I mess it up?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I totally skipped that part. Yeah. What if I messed it up? And he just says, you won't. Mm-hmm. It's a leap of faith. Yeah. Oh, so good.
That's what I meant.
I can't believe I skipped that part, man.
Things earlier in the film coming back into
yes,
play.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
It was a good one.
Yeah.
What about you, Paul?
I never got to rewatch it. I can't remember really.
You not watch
any
it. You're not doing your
specific-
prep.
What?
You're not done your prep.
Well, it used to be on Netflix for free, and I went to watch it the other day, and you need to pay for it now. Bloody jokers. So I don't know. I'm going to just put one out there. I feel like Spider-Man Noir says something about punching Nazis. So punching Nazis is always a good thing.
I
So
like
that's my
doing
quote.
my Nick Cage voice here. I like to fight crime and drink egg creams and punch Nazis. when he's in the like bar on his flashback or whatever.
There we go. Couldn't have said it better myself.
Here's another actually really good line that you can claim if you want. The first time that they see Spider-Man Noir, he's like hanging up on the the like rafters or whatever of their basement, and he's like, wherever I go, the wind follows. That line gets me every time because they're like, wait, is there wind in here? And he's like, wherever I go, the wind follows.
I think that's a good segue into my final question, because I normally do 3. So we've had music, we've had the line. Favorite spider person in the film?
Oh man, that's a tough one.
Spider person.
Like, well, there's a lot.
I know.
Sensations here, Paul.
I know.
I think, gosh, I probably have to go with Peter B. Parker, because I feel like he's the most relatable character for me. Like I feel like Spider-Man in general is a relatable character, and that's why people like him a lot. But like Peter B. Parker, when he's going through his like life stuff, and he's like going through, I made some bad money choices, I have a bad relationship, like all this stuff, and then he's like got a little like dad bod, like kind of pot belly thing going on, and I'm like, if this isn't me in a Spider-Man form, then I guess I just don't know. I don't know what is. So, and he's hilarious. Like Jake Johnson does a phenomenal job of voicing him. Just perfect.
They mentioned his belly so many times in the film.
Yeah. When Miles pokes it, when he's got him like got him tied up, and he's like, you're kind of shaped different. He's like, pretty sure you just called me fat.
No, somebody says, was it not Doc Ock? She was like, it's a result of jumping between dimensions. He's like, yeah, that's right.
Oh yeah, that's definitely why. Oh man, so good.
What about you, Pai Kwai?
I feel like me and Isaac are just living parallel lives in different sides of the Atlantic. Because I was going to say the exact same thing. I was like, he reminds me of me, you know, got the wee belly, make some questionable choices, just living life, but sometimes not all the best. But he's just always humorous about it.
Yeah.
So
Definitely.
I would say Peter B. Johnson, just because Peter B. Johnson.
Peter B. Johnson. I mean, Jake Johnson basically is Peter B. Parker, I feel like, too. So.
Yeah.
Spider-Man's
But see, when I watched this, I didn't realize he was a different voice from the Spider-Man that died. I didn't realize that was Chris Pine, and this was
Chris Pine. Yeah, right. And Chris Pine, for the very, very brief like time that he's in it, I love him in that role too, because he's like trying to be this like perfect Spider-Man, or he is basically this perfect version of Spider-Man. And who better to voice a perfect version of a human than Chris Pine? Like, honestly, it's just like, yep, that's it. That works.
What about you, Colin?
Peter B. Parker was like my kind of backup choice, because I feel like Spider-Man Noir, I feel like when he arrives, it's just banger after banger. I think he's just hilarious. Like, I think he steals every scene he's in.
He's my number 2 for sure.
The pig's funny. The robot thing's a bit weird. I like Miles. I like Gwen Stacy as well. I like them all to varying different degrees. But I'll go for Noir because that was like a new character to me. It's not one I'd actually seen before this. So I thought he was pretty funny.
Yeah.
Did you like your intros through the comic books?
Because they kept saying, "Oh, here we go again," or for the last time. It didn't feel repetitive because it's a very kind of meta film, and that it's just kind of taking the mick out itself. So
right, like they made a joke out of it, doing it over and over and over again, and that was great. Nicolas Cage as Spider-Man Noir, perfect choice. No notes.
It's not something you see very often, but I like when you see clips of voice actors in the studio doing the lines.
Yeah, that's so much fun.
It'd be cool to see that for this film if there was any behind the scenes.
Yeah, you know, I don't know if I've seen any off the top of my head.
Yeah. Nick Cage is going to be in. Don't know if you've ever played Isaac, Dead by Daylight. Oh, he's away. Nicolas Cage is going to. Nicolas Cage is going to be in Dead by Daylight, the game I play, which is weird.
You played Dead by Daylight, dude?
I played Dead by Daylight.
I should get your gamer tag after this because I have played. I don't like currently play, but I saw the Nick Cage announcement today, and I was like, well, I guess I got to get back into it now. Like the fact that we're getting Nicolas Cage in Dead by Daylight, like what is going on? They are doing actually a really great job at bringing IPs to that game. Like, it's phenomenal.
And do you see the leaked trailer as well? It's a sci-fi chapter coming out.
Trailer. Oh my gosh, it's so good. I got into it. That was probably years ago now, I'm sure, but like I got into it when they had the Stranger Things like DLC. They came out. I was like, I have to get that, like Stranger Things stuff. I love Stranger Things, so that was phenomenal. But they do an incredible job at getting like IPs to be in their game and stuff. So I'm all in on Nick Cage, Dead by Daylight, dude. That's gonna be awesome.
I've got nothing to add to that segue.
Have you played? Okay, this is a total side note. Sorry for derailing but do you play Friday the 13th at all?
No, I don't play that. No. I'm not a massive gamer, if I'm honest. I really just buy like FIFA, Star Wars games, and Spider-Man games.
Spider-Man 2 coming out this year, dude.
I've seen gameplay Friday the 13th, but it's from because it did not just get stuck at a certain point because they couldn't develop it anymore because of some lawsuit or something. Because you still watch Homewrecker and stuff like that.
Right. It's still like the servers are still, up and we play every once in a while and stuff like that. But it's I'd say it's definitely got some development issues for sure. It's not like the best game in the world, but if you're looking for a somewhat similar game to Dead by Daylight, Friday the 13th is really fun as well. I mean, like if you're with a group of like friends playing either of those games, super fun. It's really fun.
Yeah.
Where did that segue even come from?
Nicolas Cage.
Nicolas Cage.
That's a very
Daylight to Friday the 13th.
I had a stormer of a finish.
Nick fucking Cage.
Oh my god.
Paul's used our only F-bomb of the episode.
There it is. Hey, it's still PG-13 rating if we keep it at that. Just the one.
I like us to try and get quite in depth with these reviews. So I thought a good way to finish off. I feel like this film has a lot of strong themes. So I wonder just some of the ones you guys picked up on and what ones you thought were quite powerful. Or just not just this film, but just Spider-Man as a whole, but what's kind of exemplified in this film? Like what are the kind of main themes or things?
That's kind of I feel like that's a tough question, but I feel like one of the main themes in this Spider-Verse specifically is the leap of faith thing. Like sometimes you just have to trust yourself and trust, in the people around you and just do it. And, that's a hard concept for a lot of people, myself included, because I am a notorious second guesser I just like I can't make a split decision. I can't do it. So just the fact that like, you know, Miles has to like believe in himself and just go ahead and do it is like inspiration, I guess, to like, you know, like, hey, all right, I just gotta like buck up and do it pretty much is kind of a good theme that I pull from that.
What about you, Paul? Is there any kind of themes you picked out?
Oh, I'm just going to pull this one out of thin air.
I've been thinking about this in the back.
Great power comes great responsibility, or something like that. I don't know.
That's classic Spider-Man.
There's a riff off that line, isn't there, with Miles' dad in the police car at the start? He doesn't say it, but he says it in a roundabout way.
Yeah,
it does.
Yeah, now I'm trying to think of the quote. I don't know exactly what he says here.
But
I'll look it up.
I think the main theme is we've always got dodgy uncles.
Yeah, okay. Well, there was a few. I won't go into them in detail, but I thought kind of overcoming trauma. So like Gwen Stacy and her reluctance to befriend people after what happened to her friend. I thought that was quite a deep theme, and she kind of accepts Miles as her friend towards the end. There's the Spider-Man as a whole's got that whole concept, and I think with the multiverse, like anyone can be the hero, which is quite aspirational for children watching this, and probably why Spider-Man resonates with a lot of young people and older people too. So I felt like those two, the kind of overcoming adversity, but also the fact that anyone could be behind the mask.
Yeah, I will add on to that too. My kids know Miles Morales as Spider-Man, and I think that is just a really, really cool thing. You know, that the generation growing up are going to see these movies, and they are going to think that, like, yeah, anybody can be Spider-Man. It's not just this, you know, high pedestal, very specific type of person that can be Spider-Man or any hero at all. It's like anyone can wear the mask. It's just what you do that determines, you know, if you're a hero or not. So I think that's really cool. One of my co-hosts told a story a while back about how they watched this movie, and, you know, like all of our kids were all, you know, like in the very early stages of parenthood. We all have really young kids, and they went to a park one time and they were playing with some other kids that were there, and the other kids that were there, they said something about Spider-Man, and they only knew Miles Morales as Spider-Man. And I was just like, that's just cool, man. Like, it's so cool that we've come to a point where, you know, we have so many, you know, so great representation in media now. And sure, there's still work to be done. It's not like everything is perfect, you know, or anything like that. But it's cool that kids have Miles Morales, or, you know, some of these other newer characters like Kamala Khan, Miss Marvel, and, you know, those kind of characters to look up to, that look like them, or, you know, that are different from, you know, what we're used to seeing. So that is a really cool aspect of this movie.
Because we were talking about in our Man of Steel review how that Superman's powers could be like a kind of metaphor for like people with autism, and how when his powers were coming through, he was really struggling to adapt and go to school, and that was something we were talking about last week.
Yeah, that's a cool comparison.
So yeah, so obviously with the Miles Morales PlayStation game as well, he's front and center. Do you know what I mean, in the kind of current era?
Mm-hmm. Those games are phenomenal. I absolutely love everything about Spider-Man. Like PS4, like the original Marvel Spider-Man might be my favorite game of all time. I'm definitely biased as a Spider-Man fan, but it is such a good game, dude. And Miles Morales, sorry, I got kids screaming in the background. Miles Morales is also
Paul's dogs.
Miles Morales is a great follow-up. Like, spin-off game. I mean, like it's basically a full game. So I don't know if you can call it a spin-off, but like it's in that, it's in that universe or whatever. But they do a great job of representing, who he is, the type of like background that he grew up in. And yeah, it's a great game all around.
Yeah, like Colin was saying, like I do things in wrong orders. I've got Miles Morales. I've never played the original Spider-Man.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Okay, before the second one comes out this year, you got to play that because it's so good.
I've got it here, Paul. If you ever want to buy it for PS4.
Oh, no, that ruined my reputation.
Okay. Isaac needs to swing away soon, so we should probably start rounding up. But one last thing I just wanted to mention was there's a big idea of like fatherhood and the different variations of that. And obviously he saw his uncle more as a father figure, and then Peter Parker becomes more the father figure. So that was quite interesting to see how he didn't really get on with his parents and he was getting chucked off to boarding school and different things like that.
Yeah. Aye, and then it turns out his uncle was the Prowler, wasn't it, as well? Hung out with most.
Yeah.
We can't do a podcast in this film and not mention the scene where he gets stuck in her hair because that's hilarious.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So good.
I can just imagine that being some socially awkward thing that you would do, Colin.
I know. That's what I mean, Alien, mate.
Oh, man.
Oh, the old chewing gum trip.
We'll start rounding up. So what we do is a wee segment, Seismic Stars, which is as cringy as it sounds, our rating out of 10. I'm going to go out on a limb and predict that Isaac's given this quite a high score.
Should I go ahead and give it? I mean,
yes.
It's a 10 out of 10. This is the highest rated movie of all time for me. I absolutely love this movie. So no question about it.
What were you, PK?
So how many Infinity Snaps was that?
On our podcast, this is what he's referring to. If all of us rate, so we rate things out of 6 for like representing the Infinity Stones. If everybody on our podcast gives it a 6 out of 6, it gets an Infinity Snap. I honestly, because gosh, I think our podcast started after we've been going for like 4 years now, but I think it started after Spider-Verse had come out. So I don't think we've ever done a review episode of Spider-Verse, but every time it's come up, everybody gives it a 6 out of 6. So it is an Infinity Snap for the Infinity Bros, but little promo plug for the Infinity Bros podcast. All right, go ahead, Paul.
I think I'd probably follow Isaac in that at 10 because it's one of these movies I've not really got anything bad to say about it. Like I always enjoy it when I watch it. It's just like such a bright and vibrant film. The characters are good. The voices are really good. It's just nothing. There's no point where I'm a bit bored. Yeah, the music's really good. It's just animated really well. It's all the different styles just mix so good. And yeah, it's like I'd mark it down if I could find something I didn't like, but like it all works well and everything happens in it for a reason. Like the frame rate thing, I thought would bug me, but it makes sense in the context of the film. So yeah, a wee cheeky 10 from me, bro. What about you?
I'd say it's a full house because, like as you said, we haven't actually said anything negative about it the whole way through, and I think, as you say, the characters, the humor, the colors. I'm a big fan of the janky colors. Yeah, I would say 10 out of 10 as well. Plus, I don't want Isaac to be mad at me. So
I'll never be mad at anybody, but I will, hold them down a peg in my mind for the rest of eternity. So I'm just kidding.
We need to run for solo reviews. So
last thing I wanted to say before we close out here is that this movie, even if you don't like this movie, which again, if you don't like this movie, that's fine. I'm not going to be mad about it. But this movie has changed animation for the rest of time. Like we talked about it beforehand, 140 animators. They spent, I think it was, I don't have the stats right in front of me, but they spent about a week on each frame. Or no, I think it was each second of this movie, a week.
A week.
And you know, it was concurrent. It was concurrently, so they're doing multiple seconds frames at a time. But still, for 1 second of this movie to be animated, they spent a week to animate this. And this style of film is now spreading into other, like, you know, movies and stuff. If you guys have seen Mitchell's versus the Machines, Netflix animated film, like they basically, and it is a Sony, I think Sony animated it as well. So that's why, like, they knew this was happening and they were like, we want to get on board. Like, this is changing animation forever. This style of animation will be around and will be the style of animation for years and years and years to come. So it's a groundbreaking animated film. And I think even if you don't like the film itself, you have to appreciate the lengths that they went to make this film, for sure. So,
and they'll fight you if you say it's not good.
Yeah. So come and talk to me, and I'll change your mind real quick.
But before you go, Isaac, the burning question that everybody needs to know: what was the second time you cried in this movie?
Oh yeah.
Oh, there you go. Okay, so here, I'll recap it for everybody, so you guys can clip this on socials too. 3 times that I cry every single time in Into the Spider-Verse. Number 1 is when Peter Parker dies and everybody gets the notification on their phone that Peter Parker's dead, and I'm Not Scared of the Dark starts playing. Gets me every time. Number 2 is when so this is what I was saying, like, it kind of was around that time that you were mentioning, but it's when Miles's dad comes to talk to him when he's like webbed up in his chair and he can't say anything, but his dad is like basically apologizing, but not really apologizing. Like, he's going through this, like, he just lost his brother and he thinks Miles isn't talking to him, and it's just heartbreaking, man. Heartbreaking stuff. And Miles realizes in that moment, like, all right, my dad loves me. I'm going to go kick butt now. Inspires him to actually become Spider-Man. So that's number 2. Number 3 is that moment that I talked about earlier with Miles and Peter. They kind of have a confrontation at the end. Miles is like, you got to go, man. And he's like, what if I mess up? And Miles is like, you won't. It's a leap of faith.
That's a perfect TikTok clip waiting to happen there, Paul.
There you go.
If only I was good at editing.
Clip it.
Can we get your guy to do it? Get your guy to do it first.
Sure, yeah, I'll do it, man. I'll do it. You send me over the clip, and I'll do it.
Just before we clock off, just a couple of shout outs to people who posted on our. We always kind of post on Twitter about the film and see if anyone's got any thoughts. So, Porn Stash Podcast, WWYD, said, I love this movie. This is probably my favorite Spider-Man movie to date. And Wait What Podcast said, it's in my top 3 Spider-Man movies. Across the Spider-Verse should be amazing. So I'm looking forward. It's coming out on my birthday, the 2nd of June.
Happy birthday to you.
Which is a sign. Paul,
Pucks can get all the presents.
Yes. Paul, have you got any PK picks you want to share before we sign off?
Just before I sign off, I was listening to What's the Script today. They did a episode on RoboCop, which was really funny. I know Hans from Action Movie Book Club will love that one. So, yeah, that's one I really listened to this week. I've been actually too busy working and not listening to podcasts. So, that's the only one I really listened to. But, yeah, they've done a great job on that one. And they always bring the goods. So, yeah, that's all so far.
And bring the noise. So, yeah, just before we clock off, I just want to thank you, Isaac, for coming on. It's been we've met so many great people through doing the show, and I think it's probably my favorite part of doing a podcast in general. And you've been another great addition to that. And you're welcome back anytime if you would like to come back.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, it's been a blast. I mean, hey, if you guys ever go back and do some like retro review episodes of the other Spider-Man movies, I'm here. Or we could review Solo and do a defensive Solo. Yeah.
No, thank you again.
Spider-Man 2, is that what you said? Oh yeah, I'm in. Let's do it.
Particularly with 3 young kids, like, and at the time of day that it is with you, like, it's really great that you've taken the time to jump on and chat with us.
Oh yeah, Thank you
thanks
to
for
my
taking
wife.
your schedule.
Thanks
Really
to my
appreciate
wife
it.
who won't listen to this for rounding the kids up and trying to keep them out of my podcasting room during this.
But you've got a wee chance here just at the tail end if you want to replug your plug.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm part of the group called the Infinity Bros. We have a podcast called the Infinity Bros Podcast. You can check it out at theinfinitybros.com. We're on all the socials, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Twitch. I don't know, all the things we're on. So if you could just look us up, look up the Infinity Bros, and we'd love to hang out with you and conversate about all the nerdy stuff that we love to enjoy.
Sounds good. And we were Seismic Cinema. I'm Colin, and Paul is down there somewhere. And I have never seen it. Paul's watched it in the wrong order. And we're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and TikTok too. We've now got a website, just like you guys. Not a lot on it yet, but seismiccinema.com. We've also set up our first subscription service, so you can check out our one and only subscribable episode for $1.99 a month. We've literally just done that, so we need to start doing stuff for that.
Nice.
And you can check us out on Spotify, Spotify for podcasters, which used to be Anchor, Amazon Music, Audible, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, all those different places. So that was Into the Spider-Verse. Next week on our Mighty May, we're checking out Batman 89 to round off the month. And then we're taking a wee week off for my birthday and amongst other things. And just before we sign off, Isaac, we've got our bit about me not seeing things and Paul do them in the wrong order. But we've also got another wee tagline. Do you have any idea what it is?
Is it our tagline? Is that what it is? Do you want me to say it? Is that what you...
Would you not?
The pressure.
So our do you want me to do our sign off or our tagline? Which one do you want me to do?
No, you do yours and then try and
Yours.
see if you can predict what ours is.
Okay. So ours is Love You 3000. Bye. And your guys is...
You don't have to pretend you know it.
I don't
We'll
know.
tell you. Paul will fill you in though.
It's the power of radiation. The good kind, not the bad kind.
It's actually the power of escapism, and we've enjoyed escaping with you, Isaac, and we hope everyone else has enjoyed listening to us escape. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for listening, guys.
Bye.
Warning. Some viewers may find the following footage deeply disturbing.
And welcome to the Hello and welcome to the Webtastic Seismic Cinema. I will be your host, Spider-Man, and today we are reviewing The Amazing Spider-Man 3. And yeah, it's going to be a great review.
It's actually Spider-Verse. Into Spider-Verse.
Where are you? Wait, you're Eddie Brock?
I'm Eddie Brock, yeah.
Yeah, how you doing, Eddie?
This is my show.
This is the Eddie Brock Show?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Can I get my seat now, please?
that depends. If you get your rock, paper, scissors.
That's a...
Okay, now, wait. Oh, I hear something. Hero, goodbye.
Right, I got my phone back. So welcome to Seismic Cinema. So put your feet up on Kingpin's massive shoulders, grab your goober, and prepare to take a leap of faith. Don't know what that noise was in the background.
That is probably the weirdest thing I've ever seen in my life.
I love it. It's great.
I'm not really sure where to go from here.